Hey, now, welcome in, and thank you for joining us for our exciting guest. Coach Love has been with us before, and we love having her on the porch. However, oh, there she goes. She went away. We love having her on the porch, and we're grateful for her to come back and talk with us during this Encouraging the Young Women series. So, Coach Love, thank you for coming back and joining us on the porch. We appreciate you coming on and encouraging us young women and all young women because youth is really just about how you feel in your mind, right? So, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me back, Auntie. It was a pleasure being here before. I'm sure I'll enjoy my time at the porch again today.
Yes, yes. So tell us a little bit about how your day's been going before we get started.
This Sunday was Sunday in a little bit. It was kind of laid back, but I needed it to be. Going through some transitions, some growing pains. As the queen that I am, so it's a natural part of my journey. I should be used to it by now, but I'm not. So here we are. But I always look forward to getting myself together if it means that there's going to be an opportunity for me to be a light to someone else. So, considering what today's topic is, I think it's an awesome opportunity to connect with women um, because, as you know, professionally, I don't always have the opportunity to connect with women in the same way that we're going to do today. So, I'm excited to be able to just share in that space from one sister queen to another. So,
Absolutely, for sure. And it's a whole bunch of sister queens that are going to be tuning in to hear what you have to say. So, my first question is excuse me, and I have to read it right because I'm one of those older women that don't remember everything. So, sometimes I got to go back to some notes. What is your encouragement to women or young women on health? We'll start there.
I would say the first thing is absolutely be your own advocate. No one knows your body the way that you do. No one knows all those little what do they call them? Those little small details that maybe nobody else notices, but you notice. So I would say just be sure that you're paying attention to everything that you notice. Pay attention to every detail that your body or every signal that your mind gives you. And of course, don't forget to acknowledge your intuition as a woman. You can always tell when things are not quite as they should be. And then you can tell how your body and how you function overall when you're in like the best case scenario of health, right? So I would just say just pay attention to yourself and make sure that you're your first advocate in any aspect of your health, whether it's mental, emotional, spiritual, physical, or financial. Every dimension of your health matters, and you should know all of your numbers in every dimension, and you should know what feels good and what doesn't, what looks good and what doesn't. Pay attention to yourself, and then just don't be shy about advocating for yourself when you have to.
I love everything that you just said about that. I know when we're younger, right? We're on our parents' insurance. We get that once a year where we can go and get those physicals done. But when the coach is not telling us to go and get them done, don't know if we
Mhm.
necessarily do that. And then as we get older and maybe in our 20s, 25, something like that, we don't go and do the yearly checkups like we could have. And I know for sure, I'm talking about me for sure, I like going to my checkups now. When I was younger, it's not something that I did. But father time rather catches up to you, and so, ladies, you're gonna want to
Mhm.
wish that you took advantage of those things, even down to wearing a training bra. So, funny story. Right. When I was younger, I was one of those who developed a little bit faster than others, and I started wearing a training bra probably like in the second or third grade, and I was the only one I know, right? And I was the only one wearing one, and so during the day I would take it and put it down by my waist all day so no one would know that I had to wear one. But mama didn't play that. So before I had to go back out to the car, I would go back in the bathroom and pull it back up. Well, let me tell you, at 45, I wish I would have kept my training bra where it was supposed to be all day long, not worried about what other people would think and not worried about what other people would say, but taking care of myself and my body. So I totally 110% get that. Is there anything else you want to say about health?
Take it seriously, because just like you stated, time is not on our side. We're gonna progressively, and gracefully age like fine wine. But there are going to be some nuances that you're going to notice, because I promise you, the body that I have now at 42 years young is not the body I had when I was 20 years old. It's also not the body I had before I became a mother. It's not the body I had before I gained weight and lost weight and gained weight. So all of those different phases and stages and transitions that you're going to have, at different times in your life, is going to be serious. And when it is, those are the times that you really need to consider that you have the power to decide that you want to improve your health. Don't wait for anybody to tell you. Don't wait for the doctor to tell you. Like I said before, pay attention to yourself. You know when you start to feel differently, and I promise you, the first time that you feel differently is the same exact time that you need to pay attention and take notes and do something about it. Don't wait until you get a hard stop. When you get a light tap on the shoulder, that's when you start paying attention. Don't wait until you're fully in crisis mode or getting a diagnosis that you didn't expect because you thought you had all this time to figure it out, or because you just thought it was something minor when it absolutely wasn't.
That's very true. One of the things you talked about that just like stuck me in the foot was weight loss. When I was younger, it was such a big deal to, lose weight or maintain a certain thing. And I will tell you, ladies, for me anyway, excuse me, for me, um, the same weight doesn't look the same now that it did when I was in high school. So don't think just by getting back to your high school weights you've done, because it looks a little different. But losing weight when we're younger, there's a lot of pressure on us to look a certain type of way, and I feel like that
Mhm.
that falls under health and taking care of yourself health wise. You mentioned
Mhm.
you should know what looks right and what you like, and I'll be honest, I'm still figuring it out at 45. But I feel like part of that mental health there is just enjoying how you look, period. Not
Mhm.
being worried about whether or not you're supposed to contour with the blush on top or on bottom. Just do what you want to do,
Mhm.
and above all, just be grateful and be happy with the end result. I think I had to say that.
Oh, for sure. I think, if there's anything else I could add to that, is don't get into the pattern of comparison. That will be the death of everything that you hold true, that you find unique about yourself.
Yeah.
Comparison is one of those things I like to say is totally the thief of joy. So don't get into that space. I know we live in an age where everything is so public, nothing's private, everything's on every screen at all times of days and nights. And there's always this idea that you have to look a certain way, or you have to match this energy or match that thing because it's what's trending, or because it's what's popular, or because it's the thing that's going to make you, gain some kind of status in the world. At the end of the day, you guys, if you don't know, even though I am a coach, particularly for men, my main advocacy is always for self love. So you have to just love yourself enough to be able to accept whoever you are and however you look, and whatever position you may be in as far as who you are as a woman. Don't let anybody take that away from you. Don't let anybody tell you you have to be anything other than what you're happy being. Now, if you're struggling in finding that you feel secure or feel happy or feel any type of joy about who you are and how you're showing up in the world, then I certainly, in a sisterly way, advise that you seek out professional guidance with that, because the reality is that sometimes the vantage point that we have of ourselves isn't a healthy one. So we kind of get into a space where we think we're not good enough, or we don't look a certain way, or we don't feel a certain way, or that we have to just be this thing or be these things that we're not designed to be. We're divinely designed to be exactly who we are. The sooner that you can accept that, the sooner you learn to love yourself as that, the easier it becomes to navigate this world as the wonderful women that we are.
Absolutely. I agree with that 110%. Taking heed, taking heed. So that moves us right on into the next level of being comfortable with yourself. We're out here. One of the things that we're told when we're younger is that we're groomed to be wives and mothers. So encouraging young women in love and marriage. Now, I myself wanted to celebrate 95 years of marriage, okay? I've never been married and I'm 45, so that's going to be difficult. Or excuse me, not 95 years of marriage, 50 years. So
Mhm.
that at 45, that's going to be difficult, but not impossible. You know what I mean? I believe that Jesus can do for me whatever it is he wants to do. But what can we encourage young women in love and marriage? I know that, we just talked about how you look and how you feel. That seems like it's an important part about picking the right partner, not necessarily a partner, but picking the
Mhm.
right partner in love and marriage. And you counsel young men, so this ought to be great. You can give us a little insight on the male side as well as the female side. And I'm gonna go ahead and get my notebook out and get ready. Okay. I'm gonna get ready.
OMG. This is an interesting question, because if you did not hear my interview the last time I was on my auntie's porch, you guys may not know that there was a time when marriage and wife school was not on my list of life accomplishments. And so at one point, my perspective, I wouldn't say I had an unhealthy perspective about marriage, but it wasn't ever a thing that I felt like I needed to, have as this thing that I achieved in my life. Um, and I still, most people I know at different levels of my life have been married at least once. Some people have been married two and three and four times. And then there's some people that I know that have never been married. And then I was always that person. I'm like the single person. I know all these married people, and they're just like, "But you seem like you would be a great wife." And I'm like, "But I don't even want to go to wife school, right?" So, um, in recent times, I've realized that I do desire to have a life partner. Um, and I guess in the basic essence of what uh, I think the construct of marriage is supposed to be, I do desire to have that. So, what I mean by that is, don't allow what you hear people say marriage is supposed to be the reason that you want to get married. Okay. um Realize why you desire partnership, realize why you desire companionship, why you desire that higher level of commitment, and make sure that those reasons are for healthy reasons, and because you desire the gift of the individual, not because you desire what they can give you. And I'm going to say that again. Make sure that the reason you want to be married to a person is because you desire the gift of the person, not because of what you believe they can give you. Many times we hear in society that people are getting married for security, getting married for money, getting married for status. One thing I have never advocated for is creating any type of union based on anything superficial. So I didn't agree with that before I wanted to go to wife school, and I'm not going to agree to that now. The reality is that one of the really tough dynamics that I have to um, empower and elevate and encourage men through is the idea that the prize is not what they're doing as men. We have to learn as women that men are being very, very intimate with us. They're being all that they know how to be. And unfortunately, not every man, and honestly, not any man knows exactly what it takes to be a man, right? That's just like not every woman, as women, we don't know everything that it takes, right? We're kind of learning and figuring it out. And I always say that everything is figure outable. It just depends on your level of interest, your level of personal development, the amount of hard work you've done in your lifetime certainly matters, because we've all been traumatized. If you've been here for as long as we've all been here, both of us queens have said we've been here for 40 plus years. So in that amount of time, you've experienced some level of trauma. And because that's the truth of it, the other part of it is you have to be willing to be accountable and responsible for healing yourself, right? And again, I'll say I do suggest that you seek out professional guidance before you even delve into the realm of thinking that you want to be someone's significant other, right? Just because the reality is you can't fully receive the gift of what a person can give you if you're allowing yourself to always sit in a space of hurt and pain and suffering. There's no way for you to fully have the beauty of what comes with relationship if you're in a space where you just can't see that. You can't even reach that. If you're constantly thinking of the trauma you've endured, if you're suffering from issues of like trusting another person or trusting yourself, um, not loving yourself, not respecting yourself. One thing Auntie always hears me say is that, and many of you have heard me say, is that the things that we're able to do well with others are the things that we've mastered doing well with ourselves. So I'd say you need to do your hard work so that you can show up in any dynamic that you choose as your absolute healthiest and happiest and most joyous self, right? And of course, is your most authentic self, because that's what the other person is going to give you. I know oftentimes that's not what we hear that men are doing. We're always told that men are playing some sort of game with us when they engage us, or that they're hiding something. The reality is, if your energy is not such that it's warm and it's inviting and that it can be trusted, and that it feels like it's safe, then that's not totally on him. That's on you, because that means what you're exuding and what your aura is emanating is something that he doesn't feel is healthy for him. So I'm not saying that all of the onus is on the man or the woman, but it's certainly something that's equally divided between the two of us, or whatever your dynamic is. I don't want anyone to feel like that they're being left out of this conversation, because we all know that there are all forms of unique and beautiful dynamic relationship types these days, right? So I'm just saying, whoever you're choosing, however you're choosing, make sure that whatever you're asking of the person you want to be in relationship with, that you also embody that. We like to ask for a man to be a certain thing, or ask for a woman to be a certain thing, or for our partner to show up for us a certain way. But the reality is, oftentimes we're not showing up that way for ourselves. And then we're asking them to be something that we're not willing to be to them. So you have to be fair. One thing I'll say, people say all is fair in love and war. Um, it can be, but when we consider the world that we live in now, where the divorce rate is above 70%, there's some part of that that's not true, right? Because we're not all playing fair. Many of us are hiding things. Many of us are ashamed of certain things about ourselves. Oftentimes, we don't want to disclose information because we're afraid of judgment. We're afraid of not being chosen. There's this whole thing about, this generation of pick me's where everybody wants to be chosen. Absolutely. The reality is, I don't believe that God created us to be here all by ourselves. At some point, you're going to require some level of companionship and friendship and love and respect, and just those beautiful things that come with connecting with another person. So I would say, if you believe that you'd like to have the opportunity and the gift of love, then you need to be sure that you're showing up as that. I say that all the time, that I am love, but I think the difference is, I wasn't given a choice in being that. I had to really work to be that. um Even though that's my name, and even though God said I could be that, I didn't always know that I could be that. So it took all of my life, those words you've heard from The Color Purple, all of my life, to get to this point. So it's been a journey, but I'll tell you one thing: it's worth the effort and the work, the personal development, the hard work that I've done, um and just the level of honest reflection that I've had with myself, especially in the later years of my life, brought me to the space of realizing that love is something we all should have the experience of. Um, and love is again more about who we're being to ourselves and each other, and not about what we're doing. And then at some point, I guess, if love is truly something that you desire to have, it's possible for that to be something that you build again into the construct of what people call marriage. But if you desire that, the first thing you need to do is be who you are, and be okay with being who you are. Be authentic, be happy, be joyous in that. And live your life. Live your life to the fullest as much as you possibly can. And then understand that just because you're desiring a connection, just because there's a we does not mean that you forget about me, right? And I say that to say that, don't allow a connection, especially one at such a high level like a marriage, to be the reason that you lose your identity, or the reason that you shrink your identity, or be the reason that you become ashamed of your identity. Always show up and show out, whether you're single or together, right? Because whoever you are, there's someone out there that truly desires to have that in their lives. So if you hide that, if you shrink that, or if you for some reason feel like you can't disclose that, they're missing out on the best opportunity that they could possibly have. So I would say, um, the long and the short of it is that, like, be yourself. love yourself and the person and the people that you desire to have in your journey, that can contribute to your life in intimate ways, they'll show up. Um, and when they show up, just be okay with them showing up. Don't be afraid, and enjoy it and let it be fun. Don't force it, don't rush it. And again, don't compare it to any other experience you've ever had. Allow yourself to just be present in what comes. And then if it's meant to be something that blossoms into something like marriage, it will. And if not, never discount the opportunity for you to have genuine friendship. Because I think one thing I've realized in my lifetime is that the absolute best relationships I've had were because foundationally we had really solid friendships. And I think the marriages that I know that have lasted the longest is because they have a really solid friendship. So when people say things like, "Oh, we're just friends," you're not just friends. Friendships are something that could last a lifetime. And if pieced together properly, your best friend could be the person you spend the rest of your life with if you choose to. And that's all I got on that, Auntie.
Well, that was beautiful. I'm sitting up here almost in tears and taking notes going, she said, be myself. Um, I didn't date for a long time. Anyone who's listened to the podcast knows that. But when I did get back out there and get to manoodling around, I was very honest about who I was and what I was looking
Mhm.
for, which was scary for some. But what I
Mhm.
scary for them rather. But what I learned is that just kind of helped me weed out the ones that weren't supposed to be there. And I continue to be
Right.
my authentic self. And another thing I want to say about that is, I keep going back into health and love and marriage. Your circle, you hear me say it at the end of the podcast. You're absolutely
Mhm.
beautiful. And if they don't tell you that, you need to get them out of your circle, like today. And I'm not just
Mhm.
talking about like Beyonce, beautiful, you fine, you a dime piece, whatever, like beautiful in your soul. If you don't have
That's
people in your
right.
life that know how beautiful you are in your soul, they should not be
Mhm.
there or have so much access to you. So thank you for validating that. You done got me hyped now. Now I'm all excited and
Listen,
ready to
she
move
ready,
into
y'all. She
it.
ready.
So we talked about health and definitely stuck on the mental part of it. We talked about love and marriage, and again, mental comes back into that. So now we evolve into the other parts that we're told as women, that at first we were told we weren't supposed to work, we were supposed to stay at home, and we were supposed to be barefoot and pregnant. But then the bills started coming, right? And we realized
Mhm.
that it took multiple incomes to make it in a household. That was one. But then when we started doing that, we actually realized, hey, I'm better at it. Might be a little better at it than my husband, and started bringing in a little more maybe, or right around the same or whatnot. So careers and women, what would you say? I know we're not burning bras or books or whatever it was we were doing back then. We're not doing that anymore. We're
Are
we're
you sure?
strong.
Are you sure? Cause listen, bras are not my best friend. I just need y'all to know that.
Me neither.
Like,
Me neither.
unless I'm outside and I got to be around some folks that's gonna notice, listen, Auntie, I ain't even gonna hold you.
I
Mm-mm.
understand. I understand. But where are we? Where would you tell the young women? And before you say what you have to say, I do want to say that my contribution there is not to put yourself on hold, right? You get married,
That's right.
you have kids, and you start
That's
thinking,
right.
well, I got to put my career on the back burner. Miss McKinney's sound advice is don't ever do that. Don't ever put yourself
Mhm.
on a back burner. You figure out a way. Because if God will bring you to it, he'll bring you through it. You figure out a way, baby girl, to make it through, to make it through. And that's my piece. Look, like Tina Cole says, that's my piece. I just had to get that into the atmosphere. Tell us what you got, sweet pea.
Well, listen, I'll be seconding that for all the baby queens out there, all the upcoming, uh, soon to be big girl queens. Listen, please don't put any desire that you have as far as your expertise and or your field of your realm of you know genius. Don't put that on the back burner, because I promise you, if you do, there will come a season in your life where you feel so unfulfilled,
Yes.
where you will feel so unhappy.
Hmm.
You may even find yourself feeling depressed and feeling like this is not the life you chose if you decide to not, I mean, go as far and wide as you think you can go. I remember growing up, quite often, there were certain careers that they kind of pushed us to. Like, women could be teachers.
Nurses.
I remember growing up, I wanted to be a computer scientist. I wanted to be a brain surgeon. I wanted to be all this old wild stuff. I was going to go walk on the moon. You couldn't tell me I couldn't be anything I wanted to be.
Yes.
So I'm saying the same thing now. And especially now because we have this beautiful thing called entrepreneurship. Let me tell you, women are kicking all the doors down when it comes to that.
Mhm.
Like the same way these men out here, holding court, we can apply all the full court pressure we want today, because you know why? We have this awesome thing called technology. We have this awesome thing that women are really divinely gifted with called creativity. We can make anything turn into everything, and everything we touch can turn into wine and gold, okay? So
So true, so true.
at the end of the day, go for it is what I'll tell you. And let me also say this. At 42, I feel the boldest I've ever felt in my life. Pardon me, y'all. It is y'all know I live somewhere special where people come all the way from wherever they live at to come here to party. So you're gonna hear a little bit of noise, little motorcycles, little music. Some music, some of the music get a little ratchet, but you're gonna hear it. I
Take
can't
us on a
block
party
out
with
people
you.
living their lives, okay? So, pardon what you hear. I won't confirm or deny if I agree with any of what goes on out there. I can't tell y'all that. But I will say this. I feel at this age, at this season of my life, the boldest that I've ever felt, right? So I'm saying that to say, don't think that there's this timeline that you're working on, like that you have to decide at 25 or at 35.
Mhm.
Listen, if you've seen that clip that's on the internet with Judge Judy, listen, you can decide at 65, you can decide at 75 that you want to be this great, person in the world. Whatever you're choosing, just make sure you're choosing it because it's something. At least I'll say this, because we're taught, that jobs, you're thinking career, you're thinking, okay, I'm choosing this thing because I'm going to make a certain amount of money. But I have to say this: choose something that you would bare minimum do, that you at least like doing, because if you don't, it's going to be the money will be hard to be the thing that motivates you to keep doing it. Okay,
Mhm.
so it can't just be, I'm going to make these amount of coins to put in my bag and it's going to be wonderful, because it really won't be. But choose whatever you choose. Like, don't let anything limit you. Don't let it be because you don't see enough women doing it, or that you don't see enough women being praised for what they're doing in that particular field. We live in a day and time where women can do any and everything they set out to do. So I would just say, whatever you choose, make a wholehearted effort and don't let anybody tell you that you can't do it. And then ignore the whole there's this conversation about they, I don't know who they are, but ignore them and they and they cousins and they aunties and they uncles. Ignore that whole family, because in the reality of what you're living, there's only you. So as long as you are okay with what you're choosing, as long as you feel fulfilled in what you're choosing, and long as you believe you're being compensated at the level that you know you're worth, then go for it. Because that's the other awesome thing that we have now. You don't have to. Yeah, it's true that women still make 75 cents to every man's dollar, but that's in the traditional realm of a career. If you decide that you want to be an entrepreneur, you can make whatever the market can bear. Okay, you get to set your own prices, and you can make sure that you're paid well worth what you're supposed to be paid, right? So I would say, find your career, because I'm not a person that's going to ever bash, the traditional way of life. But I'll also say, find that thing that really, that you probably heard people say before. It's such a cliche to say it, but it's true. Find the other thing though that really sets your heart on fire, and do that thing, because that's the thing that could catapult you into like the fullness of who you really want to be as a woman, right? Um let your job fund your dream. You've heard people say that before. So if you're just getting started, maybe you're in college, or maybe you're even in high school, you're not sure you want to go to college. Just find you a job that'll pay you enough to, to make sure that at the end of the month is a little more money than month, right? You don't want to shortchange yourself. But in that, also think about the things that you've always really loved doing, that you really enjoy doing, because those are the things that you can turn in and create a business model around. And those are the things that'll allow you to, be in places that you may never ever reach if you just decide to just focus strictly on a career. So I would say, you know how they tell you can only do one thing. Recently I saw the quote where they say a person that's the jack of all trades is typically a master of none. And someone said how they made that into such a thing that people believe that, but it's because they never heard the rest of the quote. And the rest of the quote is that that person is still better than the master of one. So don't believe that you have to just do one thing, is what I'll say. If there's two or three things that you know you really enjoy, you may start one thing, but then add that other thing. And as you get comfortable and you get your feet planted, you add that other thing. But don't limit yourself based on any other narrative that anybody creates for you. Okay? That's the best advice I can give you when it comes to careers. And life, actually. It all works together.
Agreed. And as a mama, I can't believe that I'm agree with you as far as saying don't go along with what someone else has set for you. The idea of someone
Hmm.
else has for you. But
Right.
baby boy, if you listening, that's true.
Mhm.
That's true. You got to do what makes you happy. You got to do what you know you're good at, and only you and the good Lord knows what that is. And yes, we had encouraging young men. I think it was about a month or so ago, and all of those men agreed that you learn every trade that comes your way, and you get it
Mhm.
down as best you can because you never know when you might use it, when it may become your entrepreneurship. You enjoy it that much.
Right.
So
Yep.
I agree with that. And young ladies, you're no different. We can go out there and go get it. You can lay bricks, and you can be the president of a company. It's whatever you want to do, boo.
Mhm. You could be
And
the vice president of the United States. Listen, Linda.
okay, you surely can, and we have a up close, personal, and live example of that. We
Right.
appreciate her too. We appreciate her too. So
Yes,
sliding
we
on
do.
into everything else, we love Obama more though. Sliding into sliding into the
And
next
Michelle,
question.
right? And Michelle,
Oh
Michelle.
my gosh. I'm sorry, listeners. We got to take a detour. Please, Miss Obama, if you are listening to this podcast, I really hope that it gets to you. Please run for president, ma'am. I will do everything I can to get you all the votes, to get you all the love. I love your style. I love who you are. Thank you for being you, for real.
Yes, ma'am.
So, moving
I
into my
second
next
that.
question. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Mama.
No, I said I second that. Listen, if Michelle finna run, listen. We finna line it up. We gonna line that thing up, girl.
Let's do it. Michelle, what is it? 20. I can't even count that far. It's a few years away. For it's 2027, 2028.
Listen, it might be because the shenanigans that's gonna go on in 24. She might have to wait to 28. Lord. But we gonna get back to these questions, Auntie, because we could be off tangent for a while talking about that stuff.
We
Oh
could,
goodness.
we could. And for those of you who don't know, I met Coach Love online, but she is like a real niece to me. I can call her, get some encouraging advice, and vice versa. And so I'm grateful to have her in my space, in my life, and on the porch. Which leads us to the next question: friendship and loyalty. Oh, this is a horrible
Oh,
one for women. I think as
oh, you gonna
women,
make
we
me
can be.
cry, Jesus.
No, don't cry
Lord.
yet. Don't cry yet. As women, um, let's see, when you're younger, I think you just want to be friends with everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And then you start listening to what your mama tells you and you realize that everybody's not your friend and that hurts. And then
Mm-hmm.
you go a little bit further and you realize that not only does that apply to people outside of your family, but it applies to people within the family too. And that hurts.
Mm-hmm.
Then you get older and we want to have these relationships like we see on the movies where they've known each other all their days, where they've been, what I mean, the best of friends, ace boon
Mm-hmm.
coons all their days, or even just new ladies that you meet. But sometimes that's difficult. So what would you say about friendship and loyalty to the young lady who may be struggling with the back and forth, like what I just talked about, finding that sincere loyalty, and not necessarily just other women friends, but men friends as well, friendships and loyalties. What you got for me?
Oh, I was gonna say that. Please, let's not discount the fact that men and women can be friends.
Yes, thank
Um,
you.
Many of my besties were just some deliciously fine chocolate men, and I loved it. Um, and not all of the men have been chocolate that were my friends, but I'm just saying the reality is, I
Most
think
of them, most of them.
we discount the fact that it's possible for men and women to be friends, and that's always bothered me. We're always like, oh, men and women can't be friends. Absolutely, they can be. You know why? The same way women are able to birth boys and girls, right? It's not like God said you can only give birth to boys, you can only give birth to girls.
Right.
As a woman, you can connect. Women are designed to connect with everyone. Okay, let's just clear that out. So,
Natural nurturers.
in that fullness, you're likely to align. Your energy is going to align with almost anyone that meets you, especially if you're in your prime and you're just feeling yourself and you're great and the light is just big and bright and warm around you, everyone's going to love you. Um, the struggle becomes, how to decipher if those people love you for you or again love you for the opportunity of you, right? And what you can get them or give them, or maybe the leg up they think you can give them. We have these conversations all the time, especially on social media now. One thing I'll say, hard work comes into place with this as well. Because typically after you've been traumatized by your primary circle of influence, and we'll since Auntie touched on it, we'll say that's typically your family, right? That's typically the village of people that help guide you into adulthood. Then you get the luxury of going out into the world and trying to find your own connections, right? You get to go to a job, you get to go to school, you get to get classmates and coworkers, and you get to just be out in the world as an adult by yourself, experiencing people. And somewhere in there, you're hoping that you're going to create this beautiful thing that we've heard people talk about called friendship. Um, and one thing I have to say, I've done a lot personally to try to, like, I guess, take away the myth that women can't be friends, right? Um, and yet I also have to say, in my lifetime, I've struggled a lot with developing friendships because much of the trauma I experienced in the early part of my life came through females, right? So it took me a long time to forgive the women and the girls that had been in my life. It took me a long time to forgive myself, to even trust myself. I'm sorry, I'm getting messages here. To trust myself that my judgment or that my understanding of people was correct. Because like you said, when you're younger, you want to believe all the best things about people. You just do, because you don't know any better yet. You don't know that typically the people that hurt you the most are the people that are closest to you, right? You're hoping that's not true. And then, like you said, you grow up and you find out typically the person that knows the most, that's been in every nuance of your life, that person, if you catch them on a bad day in a dark alley, they will hurt you and they will cut you and make you bleed in a way that you never thought was possible. And I'm saying that to say, when you discover that, it hurts. And it hurts so much that sometimes you feel like, I don't want to be friends with people. I don't want to ever let anybody be that close to me, right? But one thing I discovered was, in my realizing that, oh, I don't like these women, I was like, oh, am I projecting? Because now I felt like sometimes that people thought I was angry at women, and it was like I was angry at myself. So I was kind of projecting that in all of the connections. I'd be like, oh, I just can't, or I'll even go deeper. I had a thing where I could not stand light skinned women. I could not stand them. And this is the reality, though.
But you kind of caramel color yourself.
I know. So listen, listen to the story, Linda. So this is the thing. My birth mother, as you'll hear people call light skinned people, you hear them say the yellow. So my birth mother, very fair skinned woman. Pretty much every person in my birth mother's family, fair skinned people. Some of the most foundational pain I endured in my life was within my mother's family. So it was very hard to go out in the world and see other fair-skinned women and think like, this woman is not going to hurt me, or these girls are not going to hurt me. It became a thing where I felt like, because I was darker skinned, that I was being judged, So I had a thing where I was like, I don't like y'all. I don't even want to be around y'all. And I carried that for a lot of years. Like, I typically would only engage with people that were the same complexion as I was or darker, because typically there was a time, and even now it's a thing. It's a real thing called colorism, where within our group of people, certain shades of folks think they're better than other folks, and some people are okay carrying that narrative, and they'll carry it to a T. Like, yeah, we better than y'all. You've seen the movies, wannabes and jigaboos. You've seen all of those kinds of things. Wow. You've heard the connotation that people that lost their jobs for calling girls nappy-headed hoes, okay? So we know that it's a thing. Like, people really have a thing where they distinguish between what they think is acceptable and what's not. So because there was a time where I felt like I was unaccepted by those people, I made sure that I wasn't accepted by them, because I would project before they had a chance to project on me, right? So I'm like, I don't got to be friends with you. You ain't all of that. I'm the Kool-Aid in this drink right here, and like, I'm the flavor. So if you don't like it, guess what? You won't be getting none. And I was okay with that. And then over time, one day I met somebody that looked like my mama, and they didn't act like my mama though. So I was like, okay. So all the light skinned girls ain't horrible. Some of y'all all right. So it took a thing where, so it took when I'm saying this to say that this is how deep it can run. Pain is real. Pain is one of those things that's inevitable, I always say, but suffering is not, because you have a choice in your suffering. At some point, you have to decide again that you're going to be responsible for your heart work journey, right? You're going to do this work. You're going to recondition the character of your heart back to love. So until I did that, friendship was not a thing for me. Not with women, not with girls. I had a couple of girlfriends, but typically growing up, and even now, some people just typically growing up, and then even in early adulthood, you could catch me with the guys. I'd be at the basketball court. I was coaching guys when I was in school. So I always tell it's funny now, but the reality is I coached the girls basketball team for 2 weeks. I coached the boys for a whole year. It's a thing. It was a thing. Me and the girls couldn't hit it. So it took a minute. But I realized until I actually allowed myself the opportunity to just give grace to other women, and then ultimately to give grace to myself, to forgive myself for the thoughts that I had about myself and the things that I carried from the relationship with my mother and from the relationship with, the time in my life during my childhood when I was abused. I carried all of that. And even though I was doing the work, I started therapy. If you guys don't know my story, I started therapy and getting professional guidance with my healing journey when I was 8 and 9 years old. So I've been, the whole therapy and professional guidance and coaching and all that's been going on pretty much all my life. And it's going to always be a part of my life, because there's always some nuance that pops up that reminds me that I'm still triggered by something that I thought I wasn't triggered by anymore. Right. So I'm saying all that to say those kinds of things, typically those things always impact our relationships and our friendships, always. And then because you're carrying that kind of hurt around, or that kind of anger, or that kind of misunderstanding and misinformation about what friendships are and what people are supposed to be to you, because I think that's another thing. We get selfish in thinking that people have to be what we want them to be to us. They don't. The reality is they absolutely don't. You can't have, I like to tell people, expectation does not belong in the realm of being a human being. You know why? Because expectation leads you to disappointment. The only option you have is to do your hard work and to be very intentional in how you show up in the world. Leave the rest to God. But if you really believe that you know God, then you know what you're supposed to do when it comes to how you treat people. And you always treat people the way you want to be treated, right?
Yes.
Because when you don't, then you can't be mad when they don't treat you the way you want them to treat you, right? So you have to give and give and give, and realize that you're not always going to receive exactly what you give. That's the first thing you need to understand about relationships with other human beings. You may come to a point where you feel like you just always giving, but you don't receive. One thing I know to be true, and all the giving that I choose to do in my life, God always gifts me with something. But the other reason that always happens is because I'm grateful. So I think if you learn to be grateful for the experience of other people wanting to connect with you and wanting to be around you and enjoy your energy and love on you and appreciate you and be this thing that we talked about, quote unquote, loyal to you, then you got to show up for yourself first. Because this is the thing. We have to set the precedent. I put this on my post the other day on Instagram, in case y'all want to follow me, @OneCoachLove_ Instagram. Shameless
Plug.
plug. Because listen, I know I told you I haven't done this in a while, but listen, Auntie, your niece is coming back outside all the rest of 2023. So I'm shy, but I really ain't. So listen, the thing of it is, we have to set the precedent though. So how we show up for ourselves, that gives people this thing called direction and instruction for them to understand how they need to show up for us. Because if you show up a certain way and you're being your most authentic self, people respect that. They appreciate that. And they love that you're willing to be that honest and that vulnerable. So they're going to respond. But this is the thing. They're only going to be able to give you at their level of personal development and understanding, okay? And that from their vantage point. So some people may not have done as much hard work as my auntie may have done, and some people haven't done nearly as much as I've done. And there are some people that have just done absolutely none, so they understand that what people give you of themselves, that sometimes that's all they have. We have to learn to be okay with what we get. And I'm not saying now that you're supposed to let people abuse you. Now, I'm not with that. We not let folks use us and abuse us, right? We not into that. We don't do those types of things. But I understand why people have been in seasons where they've allowed that for themselves. But once you grow and once you do some developing and you do some hard work and you do some healing, you allow people to be exactly who they are and just give them grace in being that. Because we all, again, we're all figuring it out. It's not easy being human. It's not easy being here in this physical realm with all these other people and all these other things that are going on. We have lives that we're living. Sometimes life be lifing, so you don't always show up at your absolute best.
Like
But just
what?
because you don't, that doesn't mean that you don't want the gift of the experience of another person, right? So I would just say, be who you want people to be to you. Show up that way and don't make it about anything superficial. Please don't make that mistake. Once again, do not make the mistake of believing that um the superficial things that people talk about when it comes to relationships and friendships are the things that should take precedent over what you want with another person. If
Mm.
you're being a good person, people are going to be good to you. Okay, that's the long and the short of it, because we probably got another question to go, Auntie.
Yeah, we don't. That was our last question, but we're not quite done with that one yet. I really appreciate everything that you're saying about being true to yourself, because that's like your focus in each one of the questions, and each one of the questions that I've asked has been about focusing on yourself, making sure that you're being true to yourself. And when it comes to loyalty, that's real. That's very real. You can't expect anybody else to be a good friend, a good lover, a good whatever to you if you can't be
Hmm.
those things to yourself. And it takes, I would say in your 30s is when you start to maybe put some things together, but it's still not all
Hmm.
the way together at 45. I'll just be completely
Nope, it's
honest.
not together at 42 neither, Auntie. It might not be together when I turn 52 or 62, but all I can tell you is nothing beats a failure but a try. So I'm gonna just
That's
keep
right.
trying. I'm gonna keep
We
trying.
we are trying. We are trying. I thank you so much for joining us on the porch. So you already told us how we can follow you on Instagram, and I have my heart workbook, right? I'm gonna be honest. I'm about halfway through it. It started getting a
Mhm.
little rough for me. It started getting a little rough because it asked you to do some self reflection, and I am
Good,
in.
good,
No, no,
good,
wait a minute, wait a minute.
good.
And I'm in
I
that
hope it get a
season.
little rougher for you. I hope it just tear you to pieces so that when you put yourself back together, you'll feel the best you ever felt in your life. Good,
This
good, good.
is true. This is true. However, I'm just in that season where I'm trying to heal from the step before, but it's y'all, it's real hard work. It really is. You're gonna wanna go. I gotta say gonna, because that's when you know it's real, is when I say gonna. You're gonna wanna go and order this, and I believe it's available on Amazon, correct?
Yes, I'm mad at Amazon. They discounted the price of my book, and I just been devastated ever since I seen it.
Oh
Um,
no.
yes, 'cause apparently over time, Amazon. I'm not gonna be Amazon like a basher. I will say this: if you are an author, just don't let Amazon be the only platform that you use to showcase your talent as an author, is what I'll say. But if you follow me on Instagram at one coach love underscore, there is a link in my bio. Y'all love that little plug. The link is in my bio. I can't stand saying it, but the link is in my bio. You can click that link and you can actually order a copy. I have made it my business that until I get to a certain amount of copies, that I will sign and actually put personalized notes inside. So there's a little written love offering in there for each person that orders a book. If
Yes,
that's
there
your
was.
preference, then you can certainly order directly from me. Of course, that is my preference as well, because I like to connect with all of my readers in that way. Um, and then it's just a special way that I get to say thank you directly. But if you feeling like it's just urgent for you to have it, you're welcome to go to Amazon.com. It's there, and you can get it. Amazon is the bomb.com, because they got that 1 and 2 day delivery option. So go for it. If you feeling like you ready to be that froggy and take the leap like overnight, then go on Amazon. I won't be mad. But there's a reason that book had to be the first book, and that was because that's the one thing that I know got me this far. Other than God, the one thing that's gotten me this far in my life as this wonderful, just wild and crazy woman that I am, um, is doing my hard work. It's not easy, but I always say that it's worth it. It's necessary if we're to live the life that we've been divinely gifted to live as these beautiful women that we are in this world, because we are just these awesome goddesses, and then the world needs us to be that. Um, But don't allow that need to be you not doing what God asked you to do first. Okay.
Yes.
Don't let that be that good. Don't let it feel that good to you that you don't be obedient to your calling first. But
Yes.
it does take like I said, life be life. And so the one thing that I realized made a difference was the fact that I was very intentional about healing. Um and it wasn't easy. And I'll just say the premise of what the book is and everything that I teach all the time is what I call the self-love trifecta. And that's because, again, I believe love of the self is the beginning of all things that can be great in this world. So
Hmm.
until you do that work, it's going to be a struggle. And even as you're doing the work, it's going to continue to be a struggle. And let me just say this: hard work is not seasonal, it's not linear. You're going to be doing hard work, the work that you absolutely must do so that you can do the work that God is asking you to do. You're going to have to do that the rest of your life, okay?
Yes.
My goal is to just get you to get started, to get you to realize that it's okay, that you realize that you need to start. um but it's a beginning for you, and it's a starting point, because one thing I know to be true, culturally speaking, we're not ready for therapy all the time, right? We're not ready to seek out professional guidance outside of ourselves. But
Hmm.
if you know within your heart that you like for your heart to be full and humble again by love, then you'll want to do your heart work. But the premise of that is basically that you need to practice three things, and that's forgiveness, gratitude, and positive affirmations. I don't care how corny or cheesy y'all think that sounds. And all the things that have worked well in my life, forgiveness, gratitude, and positive affirmations have gotten me to this point. And I can tell you that even if it takes you a long time to decide to seek out professional guidance in your heart work journey, that if you start doing those three things just with yourself, and through journaling, you're going to see a phenomenal just process of you blossoming into the person you really want to be. And I'm not just saying that because I wrote the book, because somewhere out in the world, I always tell people, I'm not, what I'm saying to you is not new. It may just resonate because it's coming from a different person, from a different space, and because it's coming from a genuine heart. But it's nothing new under the sun. I just found a way to conceptualize it to the point that my 12-year-old son could read this book, and my 95-year-old grandmother read this book before she transitioned. So healing is for all of us, and it's necessary. So don't not gift yourself a healthy heart. And when I say a healthy heart, I mean for your mental, emotional, and spiritual spaces to be healthy, you have to cleanse your heart, and you have to allow your heart to be what it was designed to be, and that's full and humbled by love.
Oh my gosh. Y'all see why I think she's just so beautiful. Thank you so much for joining us on the porch. Of course, we're
Hey,
going to
Auntie, bye.
continue. Yay. Of
When
course,
I
we're
come
going to.
back again, I want some iced tea, because I know you make some good homemade iced tea or something, or some
I make
lemonade,
sun-made
something.
tea, as a matter of fact. I really do,
Well,
except
then that's how I
for
know you my auntie. You know how to do it. Then let me have some tea next time I come by, okay? On the porch.
I
Thank you.
got you,
I
sweet
love you.
pea. I
I
got
love
you.
you. Bye. Look, like Terry K said, I love you. Bye.
Oh my goodness. And we thank you for joining us. No, it won't be the last. I know you're going to come out and come on again
Thank
and tell us
you.
about all of the new things that you've got going on. But take a second. Tell us, you said you're about to come outside in 2023. Tell us
Oh
what coming
Lord.
outside is looking like. What's it looking like?
Oh my gosh. Coming outside is looking like this new level of confidence I have with being out in the
Amen.
world and showing my face, because you all may or may not know, for a long time I hid who I was behind my brand. I let everybody think I was this mature Caucasian woman that, just
Me too. Me too.
it was like, oh my gosh, you're brown. Oh yeah, I fooled y'all, didn't I? So, it's looking like this me coming out into the world, speaking, connecting more in the community, because I certainly, again, I believe that hard work is a thing that our people need. I feel that it's urgent. We're in a season of like really deep urgency of healing.
Mhm,
So,
mhm.
with that being said, I'm coming out to engage, to love on y'all, to hug on y'all, to sign y'all books, and the do some workshops with the children's, do
Me too.
workshops as well with women, because I hear y'all ladies, y'all keep saying we not included, how you not including us? But we're all, everyone's going to be part of the conversation, especially our village of people, because I think our people need to heal the most. I don't care what anybody says. Everybody's trauma and everybody's pain is unique. But at this day and time, I believe that our healing is the most urgent. So that's who I'm coming to see, my people. Um, and it looks like I said, me just being in a lot of different places. So if you're following me on Instagram, bless you, child, bless you. There's my 12-year-old boy there back there, the little baby guy sneezing. Him blessed. So I gotta tell him bless you.
Oh, bless the baby.
Um, that looks like me just being a lot of different places. And like I said, if you guys are following me on Instagram, if you're not, today would be a good day to start.
Would be.
I share there mostly in my stories, but I've decided to make sure that I kind of make these mini announcements. So whatever location is coming up next, I'll say that location and those dates, and you guys can DM me, and we can make sure that we meet when I'm in those particular locations, because yeah, we coming outside. And then because this is the year of execution, I don't believe execution will be possible without collaboration. So that means I have to come out into the world and then engage just a wee bit to
Yes.
make sure that all the hard work that needs to get done gets done.
Yes.
And just because I love y'all, I really do love y'all.
And I will say, don't take too much. I think that you have such a wonderful message with the hard work that more than just our people are going to gravitate toward you. I
Oh,
think
for
everybody
sure.
with a good heart is going to, or at least that's what's happening with
Oh,
me.
and they do, and they do. I just think I've realized that sometimes our people think I'm not talking to them.
Uh,
So yeah, because it honestly,
we don't
many
talk
of
about hard work, not in our homes. We
them,
don't talk
we
about that.
don't. And
Mm-mm.
so I've said this many times. Most of my clients don't look like me. Okay, they don't look like us. Um, but I know that our people, our boys and our men, they need to have that conversation as well.
Yes.
So my thought is, if I'm out in the world, if I go out into the community, I'm gonna find y'all and we gonna have a conversation. Cause I don't mind knocking on your door. I don't mind, tapping you on the shoulder saying, "Hey, I'm here." Because one thing that needs to happen, and it's a very unique thing I plan to do. That every brown and black boy and man that I engage the rest of this year, there's two things that you're gonna hear me say to you. One of those things is that love is here. The second one is that you're safe now. Because those are
Oh.
two things that you absolutely need to know, so that you can feel like you're worthy of gifting yourself hard work. And that's where we're gonna start, but that's not where we're gonna finish.
And that's beautiful. You about to make me cry. You about to just make me start bawling. I thank you so much for sharing just your beautiful heart with us. Again, I know it
Thank
won't be the
you.
last. And so,
Thank
what
you for
time is
letting
it?
me
Yeah,
come to the porch. Thank you for letting me come to the porch.
absolutely,
I love coming to the
absolutely.
porch.
So, what time is it? It's time for you to be you, beautiful, which is what we said all through this whole episode. It's time for you to be you, which is absolutely beautiful. Don't let nary another individual tell you anything any different. And if they do, get them right on up out of your circle today. Do it today. We love you guys. Thank you for tuning in and take care.
Thank you. Take care, guys. Peace, love,